had an enormous economic recovery, but the minds of people had been so scarred, the memories. Parents told their children. 1929 became a symbol in people's minds. I mean, if you said 1929, it was like saying 1776 or 1492. I mean, everybody knew exactly what you were talking about. In 1929, my dad, who was 26 years of age then, was employed as a security salesman by a local small bank. He sold stocks and bonds, but he mostly sold stocks. And when stocks fall 48%, and you were selling them to people a few months ago, you really don't feel like going out and facing those same people. So I think my dad probably elected to do, as they say now, shelter in place, which means stay at home. And there really wasn't that much in our house. We just had a small yard. It was wintertime anyway. My dad wouldn't have been puttering around the yard anyway. And there really wasn't, television wasn't there. And he and my mother got along very well. So under those conditions, I was born about 9 months later. So I didn't notice at the time that the market was closed. But the stock market had actually recovered over 20% during that 9.5-month period or thereabouts. People did not think in the fall of 1930, they did not think they were in a Great Depression. They thought it was a recession very much like had occurred at least a dozen times, although not always when stock markets were important. But we'd had many recessions in the United States over the time, and this did not look like it was something dramatically out of the ordinary. Actually, for about 10 days after my birth, the stock market actually managed to go up all of 1 or 2% there in those 10 days. Well, from that point, the stock market went from level of 240 to 241, which was a noticeable decline because if somebody had given me $1,000 on the day I was born and I'd bought stocks with it and bought the Dow average, my $1,000 would have become $170 in less than 2 years. That is something that none of us here ever experienced. That we may have had it with one stock occasionally, but in terms of having a broad range of America marked down 83% in 2 years and marked down 89% of the peak was in September 3rd, 1929, was extraordinary. And in that intervening period, less than 1 year after I was born, just slightly less than 1 year, my dad went to the bank where he worked and had his account. And of course, the bank had a sign on it closed. And so he had no job. He had 2 kids at that point. His father had a grocery store, but Charlie and I both worked for my grandfather. Charlie worked there in 1940. I worked there in 1941, so we didn't know each other.